20 fish in a day?
Yeah, 20 fish in a day.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Bigger fish?
Bigger fish. Well, when we've done St John's, there's a shallow bit with weed and that down there where Adam's done really well.
Yeah.
And on there we've fished chods in the weed, and I've had a couple of punters with PBs of double-figure fish that have gone home with a 30-pounder in a 24-hour session. Yeah.
Nice. That must feel good.
Yeah, it's great to pass on stuff and see what it does for other people's confidence and how much they get out of it. Yeah.
Right. And do you get any feedback from these people after they've been out for a day with you or not?
Yeah, I get texting going on, see how they're going on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I like to know that they've taken what I've shown them rather than forgotten about it. You know.
Yeah.
It's not just to come fish with me and catch on the day. It's hopefully you take the skills away and become a better angler for the lesson, you know.
Yeah, cool. And what about people of sort of higher levels? Is it just basic people you're getting, or are you getting people that want to just hone the nth degree?
Well, it's a mixture, you know. I've had quite a few birthday presents, you know, people getting them as a treat.
Right.
And other people that are really looking to hone their skills, people that are fishing syndicate lakes and haven't caught anything from them and they want to know what it is they're doing wrong.
Right, okay. So you can actually, you go to day ticket lakes, I take it,
yeah,
but you go to syndicates as well?
Yeah, we've got 5 or 6 venues that we've got permission to take people to.
Right.
But if you've got a water in mind where you fish and you want to take me there, if you can get permission for me to come, then I'll come to you.
Right, okay, cool. So I'll take it you do day sessions and 24-hour sessions, yeah?
Yeah, that's right.
Right, and how would somebody book that up?
Well, if you go onto the Korda website, on the front page, the home page, on the right-hand side at the top, there's Korda tutorials. Go in there, there's a phone number, speak to John Mann, and he'll tell you when I'm available, and we'll work something out.
Excellent, excellent. Well, a day out with him is going to catapult you forward many years of angling experience, and if you go with him and he learns and you don't, give me a ring, I'll employ you.
A lovely Skylake mirror, £39, beautiful. Book yourself a Korda tutorial and I'll have you catching fish like this in no time at all.
This is a brand new rod and reel combination from Daiwa. First of all, the rod, it's a longbow DF, but it's a 12-foot 3 3/4. So this came out of the day we spent with Nori, one of the Japanese rod builders. We took him fishing for the day, showed him how far we had to cast, showed him what we wanted from a rod, and he's made a longbow with an even faster recovery and a heavier test curve. So if you want to fish at long range and you can't stretch to the infinities, this is definitely what I recommend. When we were testing these, they were going almost as far as a 13-foot 3 3/4 infinity. And that's me and Daryl putting them through their paces. There was only a few yards in it. It's very fast recovery on the rod, much faster than the other longbows in the range. So it's going to feel a lot more responsive in your hand. And if you know how to cast, you'll get 150 yards with this. Same styling, obviously, as all the DF range. So you've got a 50mm butt ring down to 40, 30, 25, 20 and a 16mm tip. Very, very important if you're using heavy lines. That nice minimal styling you can see on the rod there. So all nice black whippings, a long handle, just like the rest of the range, exactly the same length there. Very, very important for getting the tip moving and just nice and minimal the whole thing. And then moving on to the reel, this is brand new as well. This is the Crosscast X. 5 ball bearings in this one. There's 3 in the S, which is the black version that's been out about a year. And this one, as you can see, has got that lovely line clip on it, just like the Beziers. Very, very kind to the line, easy to clip underneath. I found them to be really smooth. It's a good looking reel as well, and you can see got lovely line lay on there. Comes with a spare spool as well, so I've got 12-pound contour on this one. I'm only fishing here about 65, 70 yards out, but if I wanted to go for extreme range, I'd put the tapered subline on, and like I say, with this combination, you're probably going to get 150 yards out of it. So a very, very affordable combination of rod and reel that's going to do everything from under your feet to 150 yards out. And there we have it, a very chunky mid-20 from Skylake, one of 3 fish in a night, all taken on that IQD rig that was so successful at Gigantica. Absolutely nailed on that they were, and all fished over a big spread of boilies, baited up with a throwing stick. So we're going to get this fella back and look at how to use the throwing stick. The weather is absolutely biblical now. I've got a lovely northwesterly blowing into me. I've not had a bite for quite a few hours, so rather than sitting here all day and waiting for the action to start again in the evening, which it seems to be doing, I'm going to try and force a bit of action by putting some more bait in. And baiting with the right quantity and at the right time is absolutely key on these venues. What a lot of people do wrong, they go out for dinner, 6 o'clock, come back to their swim, start baiting up about 7 o'clock just as the fish are starting to show, and then ruin their chances. And the other big mistake is get up first thing in the morning, see a fish jump out, start baiting up over the top of them, scare them all away, and you've ruined 2 feeding spells. So it's now the middle of the day. Like I say, there's been no action for a little while. So I'm going to put some bait in, only about 1 kilo over each set of rods. I'm fishing 2 and 2, just about 1 kilo, just enough to bring the fish back in to get a bite. If I put 3 or 4 kilos out, then I'm probably not going to get a bite until the night time. So you need to think about putting just enough in to get another bite, and then do your big baiting before dinner rather than after dinner. Go up and rest your swim for an hour, have dinner, come back, cast the rods back out, the fish might already be there. So the throwing stick, first of all, the easy stick as it's called, because it is so easy to use. Long slim shaft on it, very, very lightweight, and that unique J shape at the top. That creates backspin, makes the baits go further. A long slim handle, so you can use it one-handed or two-handed. And in the end there, we've got a hole just to stop the vacuum being created, which sucks the baits back in the stick and means they don't go as far. This now comes in 3 sizes. This is the 20mm, there's a 24mm and a 30mm now. So for you European anglers that are using big boilies, we've listened to you and there is a stick to suit you. To go with it, I've got my Aqua Boilie Caddy. I've got about 1 kilo of 20mm cell in there. And what I've done with the cell and the Newgrange is I've soaked them in a little bit of vegetable oil. The oil soaks into the baits, and that has several advantages. One, it stops the bait splitting as they come out of the stick. The other major advantage is when the fish start eating it, you start getting a slick of oil on the surface of the lake because they're chewing the boilies, the oil comes up to the top and you know they're out there feeding, which is a brilliant indicator. The third thing is it preserves them a little bit more. So on long sessions, when you've got no freezer facilities, a little dribble of oil, shake them up and put them in a bucket will make them last a bit longer as well. So my stance, I'm going to put 4 out at a time. No marker float back in the swim because I know 4 goes about the right distance. And just watch my technique. It's almost like a cast. So you're starting off with your weight on the back foot and then transferring your weight through. Those first ones went a bit high, didn't go far enough, so I'm aiming a little bit lower now to get them out there. And I prefer the two-handed technique. I think it gives you more control over accuracy and it just spreads the load so you don't get that horrible tennis elbow feeling when using one hand. And what I'll do is I'll spread these baits over probably, I don't know, half the size of a tennis court, something like that, with 2 or 3 rods amongst them. In this case I'm using 2. And just keep the bait going in at regular intervals. It's the guys that sit there and let the swim go dead and then just bait up once a day just before it gets dark. They're the ones who are going to get 1 or 2 bites a day at the most. The guy that can be bothered to rebait at the right time is the one who's going to get loads more bites. So that is the throwing stick as well. Adam was using it. It's a very good effect at linear, but he couldn't do what I'm doing because of the seagulls. Fortunately, we haven't got any over here, but he was baiting up in the dark. And obviously with this method, maximum effort with 4 baits, he's getting them out there. So I know I can do the same thing in the dark, and that's exactly what Adam was doing. Or he was just putting out maybe 20 baits until the seagulls turned up, and then he was just stopping. You see a lot of people in the UK, they carry on baiting up when the gulls are there and they're getting every single one. If they are there, just stop completely, let them disappear, and then half hour later put a few more out. So that's all the tricks for the throwing stick. Use it to your advantage, and you can build a really big hit. Another lovely dark Sky Lake mirror taking over the baited area. Obviously using the throwing stick, it just shows if you get the baiting right, you can turn a good session into a brilliant one. So think about what you're doing, put it in at the right time, and you'll be getting loads of lovely beauties just like this one.
One of the great things about doing this DVD is having the pleasure of using some of the newest bivvies on the market. Stood proudly next to me here is the M3 Duo by Aqua. So why is it so great? Well, firstly, the Aquatex material, a running theme through all of the Aqua bivvies. Water just wicks away from it, and also this Aquatex doesn't put any stress on the seams or the zips, a vital factor when you're trying to maintain your bivvy for a long time. Let's talk about the front of the bivvy. Well, I've got it set up session style. This whole thing is removable. At the moment, these mozzie infills are covered with the front because I don't want rain coming in. However, if it's sunny, I can simply open these up and have the old bivvy sort of with these mozzie windows looking out to the lake. and onto the peak itself. Now this peak is removable. Some people like them, some people hate them. Every now and again I end up butting my head against there, but that's not a problem for me because the added features really do help. Rain doesn't get into the porch of the bivvy. Also, you'll notice I've got my throwing stick resting on top. You know, I always know where it is. I can put it there. It's nice and secure. And when it comes to resting your rods, when you're getting your rig sorted, again, they've got these very handy rod straps just there to just enable, you know, sorting your rigs out, making it a bit easier. Moving on to the rest of the bivvy, one of the newest features is that the pram hood system now has 3 brakes in it as opposed to 2. So you've got 4 poles, the whole thing is a lot more compact, making transportation a lot easier. Onto the back of the bivvy, you've got another Mozzie air vent. At the moment I've got it closed, it's raining, so it's all down, so no rain comes into the back of the bivvy. However, if it gets sunny and I want it open, then I know fresh air is going to be flowing right through the bivvy. How do you set this bivvy up? Well, it couldn't be simpler. You've got 2 options. You can either use the ground sheet or the tensioning straps that are provided. I'm using the ground sheet because I'm on a longer session. I don't want the bivvy getting soaking wet as the rain comes in. So once I've laid the ground sheet down, making sure that the Aqua logo is facing the direction that I want my bivvy front to be. I always have it facing the lake so I can see what's going on. So the Aqua logo facing the lake, everything's down. Take the bivvy out of the bag and connect all of the poles together. Once you've done that, lay it down on the ground sheet and then take the tensioning corners and sort of hook them onto the underneath of the ground sheet where you'll see 2 sort of connections like that. So the 2 meet, do it on the other side and that'll basically give you a nice arc in the pram hood. Then take 2 pegs, you go to the back of the bivvy and you actually hook the ground sheet onto the inside of the bivvy. They've got these little sort of rings that hook onto the ground sheet. Do that on each side, put the pegs in and that will give it stability. Come now to the front. When I was setting this up, the actual front wasn't zipped onto it, so I just put 1 peg in the corner, pulling the whole bivvy up, and then the next thing that I did was to actually zip the front onto the bivvy. Once I've done that, you've got the whole front up and you can put the 2 front pegs in. Once you've done that, the whole thing will be up and go around and do each pegging point and make sure that the bivvy is nice and tight. Once you've done that, you come to putting the peak on. Like I said, it's actually removable, but these poles get threaded through and push them onto the sort of 2 pistons that stick out from each side, push them down, push it on, get the tension in there, and then you go on to actually put in the tensioning bars through the hole. These come with the bivvy, put it from the back and work your way to the front, and then the peak will be nice and rigid and set, lovely and stable. So what's included for the price? Well, in the bag you'll get your tensioning straps, the brilliant frame support, very durable pegs and a clear window infill. In my opinion, once again, Aqua have raised the bar. Why do you need Corda cover? Nobody ever thinks they're going to be a victim of tackle theft, but tackle theft is at an all-time high. And whether it's from the car, from the bank or from your home, we've tailor-made an affordable angling insurance policy that is going to cover you for every eventuality. We meet so many people at events. I receive loads of messages on Facebook of people that have had their gear stolen and they were not insured, and that's the worrying thing. People are still going fishing, risking their gear being stolen and having to replace it all at a massive cost. So don't delay any longer. Visit the website here or ring the number and get yourself covered before it's too late.
And how about that for a lump of carp? 44.5 pounds. Well chuffed with this one. This is on the longer range spot, about 75, 80 yards out there. And once we do some pictures, obviously we're going to return him to his home and then show you the all-important rig that we caught him on. Wicked. This is the rig I've been getting all my action on at Skye. I'm boilie fishing, remember, so I'm baiting up with 20mm cell boilies, probably a couple of kilos each day. I'm fishing one of these fellas over the top. That's one of my homemade slow sinking hook baits. That one's a mixture of different fruit flavours. So I've got pineapple, I've got orange, grapefruit and tangerine in there and a bit of sweet aid as well. I've made it a creamy white colour on purpose so it stands out from all the free offerings, but it's not popped up off the bottom. Literally the hook is laying flat and the bait is just bending up off the bottom to take away the weight of the hook. That's attached to the ever effective IQD rig. So exactly the same setup as has been successful for me at Gigantica. So a size 4 cap to curve. This time I've used the dark green one just to blend in with the bottom. It's very dark on the bottom here. The water's very murky and muddy, so I've darkened everything down to blend in with that. Still the 15-pound IQ2, that's a perfect complement to that size 4 curve, just stiff enough to kick out of the eye of the hook. And I always make sure that I steam it so that it doesn't kick out of the eye at too aggressive an angle, and then just keep it nice and tight in the rig safe so that it's kicking out and turning the hook but not closing the gape up too much. And then moving down the hook link, I've got a sinker on there with some of the dark matter putty round it to hold it down flat on the bottom, and also just to help the hook turn and catch hold as well. I've probably got an 8-inch hook link on there. The lead's not burying into anything. I'm getting a nice thud on the bottom, and I'm guessing it's probably quite sandy out there. Pulled the marker float back a bit, and I haven't picked any weed or anything up. The baits are coming back in smelling a little bit, so I'm guessing there's a bit of detritus on the bottom, maybe a bit of dead weed. So having that slow sinker on lifted up off the bottom is going to help that. And then down onto the lead system, as I've said, this is going to feature very heavily in my fishing. The cog system, centre of gravity, this time with the flat swivel pair version. This is a 3.5 that I'm using. Like I say, I'm getting a nice thud down on the bottom. Basically, when I get a bite, it's pulling out of there, so the fish is picking the lead up from the heavy part first. You can see that instantly, and then that's pulling out, and then it's onto the lead clip, and on a really fast take, that's pulling away as well. You're losing the lead if it gets caught in anything, but if it doesn't, you should get the lead back most times. So let's put that back on again. This is one of the quick release lead clips that we've brought out. Same as the original one with the 2 holes in it. Just no serrations on the back of the clip, if I can show you that there. So the rubber connector still fits on reasonably tightly, but will push away quite easily if the lead's sliding off of that lead clip. And then moving down onto the anti-tangle system. With this cog system, I think it's important to have something behind the lead to stop it all tangling. In this case, I've got the dark matter tubing, very, very heavy, a nice thick diameter to stop everything tangling, and there's just enough there. If I can fold the hook link back against it, you can see I've got probably 6 inches still above it. You don't want it too short because there's a chance that the hook link and the main line can come into contact, and that's when it'll tangle. So not a great big long length, just sort of a foot, maybe 18 inches of that. And that's going to help everything to lay down flat on the bottom. And of course I'm using the contour main line, and that's fished really slack with the bobbins just hanging down, so everything's laid on the bottom so those fish can come in and feed with confidence. So that's my #1 choice for fishing this lake at the moment. If you're casting onto a nice hard bottom, that's what I recommend. This is the Euro Sniper tripod from Cygnet. If you're doing long sessions and you want to get an accurate weight on the fish, this is what I recommend. So we're going to zero up the retainer sling from Tracker first of all. So that weighs just about £3. So we're going to roll those Reuben Heaton scales back to 0. There we go. And I've got the fish in the retainer sling in the edge, exactly the same one as that, so I know it's going to weigh the same. The water drains out of these really quickly. Really good product. You can leave the fish in them. If you catch them in the night and you're allowed to sack them up, you can leave the fish in them and then just get them straight out in that. And of course that's what we're using to get the fish out of the water when we first catch them. We're rolling the net up and putting the fish inside the retainer sling and picking it out in that, so there's no risk of damage to the fish. So let's take that one off. Obviously I've got my mat underneath there, my Tracker mat underneath there. Get that out of the way and get the fish out of the water. There it is, needles nice and still, 31 pounds 14 ounces, well pleased with that. Just to point out a couple more features on this tripod, you've got double thumb screws there, and they're both made of brass, so they bite into that alley really well. And there's also an attachment for the foot, so you can put a peg in that as well and keep it all nice and solid so that it doesn't blow over if it's really, really windy. So a nice stable product. If you're doing long sessions, you're going to get exactly the right weight out of that. And there she is, what a beauty. Built for power, this one. Absolutely beasted me on the new 12-foot 3 3/4 longbows, and they've been absolutely brilliant this week at playing a fish. 16 bites now, 16 in the net. So a fantastic casting tool and a brilliant rod to play fish on as well. Well chuffed.
I've used the Stows now for the past 12 months, and I've got to admit I was totally shocked by just how sensitive they were and how much they transformed my bite indication. Now let me explain how I like to use them, because a lot of my fishing over the last couple of years has been done on small lakes and at close quarters. So generally I'm fishing a totally slack line. Now when you use the Stows that way, you can have them hanging on the line, but I like to do it this way. So the reel line from the reel right through the rod is totally slack. Once I've done that, I've paid out enough slack and I know my fluorocarbon or my main line is sunk to the bottom. What I actually do is take the Stow bobbin, make sure it's fully extended there from the hockey stick, and then pull it tight from the reel as opposed to slack, and then pull it through the clip. We'll do that again, just get it nice and tight. So now what you've actually got is it looking quite unorthodox, because the bobbin's almost running parallel to the floor, but it makes it so sensitive, because normally with a slack line you won't get any sort of registration unless there's a fish on, you know. But this way, because the line's caught in that clip, it's giving resistance from this side of the alarm, and with just barely any movement, like that is probably 2 mm movement, with the sensitivity on the Delkimon Plus and just one, I'm still getting a fair bit of indication. So if fish are in the swim and I'm getting the odd liner, or you know, they've got away with it, then I'm going to know everything that's going on, and that is all thanks to the Stow. There's so many different ways you can use them. There was one occasion at Brasenose on the Linear Complex where I was actually fishing zigs and a solid bag next to each other. I was spotting over the top of the two of them, and I swear I've cast the two out and the zig rod wouldn't stop bleeping. And that proved to me just how many times those fish are taking that bait in and out, and it was no coincidence that it was right next to the solid bag rod, which was on the bottom, that didn't bleep. The zig rod, 17 times before I actually had a take. And that was all thanks to the Stow for letting me know what was going on in the swim. I've got to say, in the last 12 months, I've become a total Stow devotee.
We had to put this Force 12 clothing on from Aqua. It's so good. I've used it all summer. 100% waterproof, breathable as well. And if I show you the inside, totally unlined, and that's really important for the summer. If you're pushing a barra, you get to your swim, you're sweating already, so you're wet on the inside anyway. Not with this stuff, because it is so lightweight. Both of them packed down to absolutely nothing, come in a little tiny bag like that. So I take them with me all the time, and the bottoms I wear, if I'm doing fish pictures, I'll put the bottoms on whatever the weather, and it just stops your trousers getting soaking wet. I'll zip that up, show you the other features. Nice high collar on it as well, and that unravels and turns into a hood, and you've got a nice stiff bit at the front that creates a peak so you don't get the rain on your face when you're baiting up and that sort of stuff and playing a fish. And then these little fellas on the end there just do up nice and tight, so when you're playing a fish and it's raining, you haven't got the rain running down your arms. So that's the Force 12 clothing from Aqua. More expensive than normal fishing clothing, but worth every penny. There are two new chairs in the Daiwa Mission range. First of all, the 6-leg bed chair, and most importantly, it's extremely lightweight. That's an aluminium frame on there. As you can see, nicely padded, very tightly sprung as well, which makes it more comfortable and very, very affordable. And then this fella that I'm sitting on, this is the Mission Day chair, a luxury guest chair. It's absolutely just so comfortable. I'm definitely going to be taking this to Walthamstow when I'm doing my day sessions. Just having it a little bit higher at the back like that and being able to recline it just makes it just super, super luxurious. And it's got quite a big footprint on it as well, so you can put it on top of your trolley, put all your gear on top of it like you would a bed chair, and you're away. So they are the two new chairs from Daiwa, well worth looking out for. These are the two new rucksacks in the Mission range. First of all, the Session rucksack, 110 litre capacity. On the top there, you've got a space for all your pop-up pots and all bits and pieces in there. The thing I like about these, they stand up on their own and they've got a nice sort of rigid surround to them. So lots of stuff goes in there, it doesn't collapse in on itself. Get absolutely acres of stuff in there. Then a big pocket on the front, obviously for your tackle box or buzzer bars or whatever, and then two pockets on the outside that zip open nice and easily. And if I can turn that round, got really nice padded strap in there, ergonomically designed so it sits on your back really well, walk long distances with that, and then a neoprene handle for lifting it up and getting it in the van and stuff. And then the 40 litre roving rucksack, same design, same top part to it, for your pop-up pots and all your different bits and pieces. Obviously nowhere near as big a cavity inside, but if you're fishing with a trolley and you're only going to put a little bit of gear in there, that'd be brilliant. Or if you're doing day sessions, that'd be really good as well. The same big pockets on the outside and the same nice padding on the back. Let's have a look at their carryalls. This is the Mission carryall, 70 litre capacity. You can see loads of room in there. I'd get all my stuff in there, camera bag, bits, bags, all that sort of stuff. I could use that for my own fishing, definitely. Big pockets at the front, scales, sacks and all that sort of stuff. Get all your spods and what have you in there. Bits, bags, leads and all that sort of thing in there. Loads of room in that one and a nice padded strap on it as well. And then in the Infinity range, this is the Stuff It All carryall. So if we just zip that open, it's more like a sports bag sort of design. You see in there, that just lends itself to being a clothes bag or a food bag for a long session. It's got a hard bottom on it, so it's nice and protected on the underside. It's going to keep your clothes nice and dry if you're doing a week session. And then you've got a gauze bit on the inside there for putting stuff in, and even a bit there for your passport and all that sort of thing if you're going away. So those are the carryalls. Let's have a look at the rod bags. This bad boy is the 6-rod holdall from Daiwa, again under the Mission banner. 2 nice neoprene carrying straps there for putting it into the motor. And then if we turn it over, loads of pockets on the outside. So we've got a big long pocket, runs all the way along for your landing net and everything. Get the pole and the net in there. Another pocket there for your long sticks, and another one there for your short bank sticks as well. And then if we open it up, you can see how the 6 rods fit inside. So you could take 3 unmade up rods as well, if that's what you want to do, and then also 6 rods there. So 3 going that way, 3 going that way, straps to hold them all down tight, nice padding at the top to protect the tip rings as well. And if this one's too bulky for you, there's a 3-rod version as well, obviously, where the rods only go one way. And it's got a nice little pocket there for your butt eyes to go into to protect those. The same pockets on the outside for your net and all your poles. So between the 2 of them, they've got everything covered.
Love them or hate them, pods definitely have a place in carp fishing. I've got to admit, I've not been a massive fan of rod pods in the past. However, Cygnet supplied 2 pods for this DVD, and I've had the pleasure of using one for the last week, and I've got to say I've been totally impressed by it. This one's called the Grand Sniper Deluxe Pod, and it is so versatile and can be transformed to suit any fishing situation. Now, as you can see, I've jacked the front legs up at the moment, but these are the legs, these are the shorter legs that come with it, okay? But there's also a 36-inch version available, along with 24-inch back legs. You can put them whichever way you like. What I also love about it is this very, very clever quick lock buzzer bar design. These literally just screw in. They've got little stumps at the end of the buzzer bars. They just slot in and can be locked in place with no messing around. And this is another very clever bit. I've turned the alarms down, so if you've got the whole pod jacked up, you just loosen up these 2 bolts at the top, and depending on the height that you've got the pod, if you're fishing Euro style and you want it right up there, you'd put on the sort of big legs that come with it. And look, you can actually turn these down, which will mean when your rods are up in the air, you've got perfect bite indication. You're not sacrificing anything by jacking them up. Now, I've actually got these quite high, considering the sort of fishing that I'm doing. Sky Lake's a small lake, it's not sort of a range water, you're not out there a long way, but I've got a lot of marginal weed. So just having the option of jacking these legs up at the front and having it a little bit higher is really, really important. It's made with H9 grade black aluminium tube, which makes it not only sturdy, but also very lightweight. And I tell you what's impressed me the most is I do a lot of fishing locked up, and I've always been worried that pods will almost fall over on a take when you're fishing locked up. But I've had a couple of real ferocious bites on the pod during this week at Sky Lake, and it's just stood still, stood firm, and done me proud. And I've got to admit, I'll be using this pod all over again in the future. You know, when you go to a lake and there's hard gravel like there is here, you don't have to mess around with the old bank sticks. You can just put them in, and this Cygnet pod is definitely one for the future for all of you to explore. There's another pod in the range called the Quick Lock Deluxe, and that's available in actually 2 different sizes, a 26-inch to 45 and a 32 to 57. Once again, that's really totally versatile. It's got different length sticks for the front of it. It comes complete with 3-rod buzzer bars, and again, like I say, you can use it in any condition. That is probably one for the English fishing, and this, the Grand Sniper Deluxe, is what I'd use for Euro fishing and this type of situation when you want those tips up and over any sort of debris or weed in the margins. One final point worth adding, they both come complete with excellent carry cases. You can put your buzzer bars away, there's total protection, and the Grand Sniper Deluxe also comes complete with 4-rod buzzer bars as well. In my opinion, these are really, really good pods, and if you are a pod angler and looking for a new one, then look no further.